Hi, this is Ollie. Welcome to Possibility Space. Today I'm going to read you Blocking Burnham, the latest salvo in Labour's assault on democracy. Last weekend, Labour's National Executive Committee, or NEC, blocked Andy Burnham from standing in an upcoming election. Much ink has been spilled about this by-election bust-up, but far less about the pattern of anti-democratic decision-making that paved the way to it. I'm talking cancelled elections, disproportionate outcomes, and internal stitch-ups. British democracy is in a pretty sorry state, and it's the right-wing clique at the top of the Labour Party who stand to benefit from all of this, at least in the short term. This article situates their decision to block Burnham within Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's broader authoritarian turn. First, we'll look at the postponed council elections. Labour's choice to block Burnham makes sense when you realise that they view winning votes as a bureaucratic inconvenience. They're simply not interested in representing you, as demonstrated by the recent uptick in Labour MPs baselessly reporting tenacious constituents who write to them to the police. Labour, who proposed to end austerity, recently invited councils to, quote, raise capacity concerns and seek to postpone elections. That is, to cancel elections because they cost too much. 29 councils accepted the government's offer, leaving 4 million voters without a say. Still more councils are threatening to do so. Most wanting to delay are Labour-led. This is convenient, since polls indicate that they were set to lose badly before they called the whole thing off. Now we'll turn to first past the post, our voting system here in the UK. Consistent with his disregard for voter opinion, Starmer has abandoned his former support for electoral reform. It's not difficult to work out why. The distortion of our first past the post system let him win with fewer votes than Labour got in 2019, a result that, at the time, Starmer called a devastating loss. First past the post often struggles to turn votes into representative parliaments. However, its distortions were especially stark in the last election. A record 6 in 10 voters did not get the MP they voted for. A vote for Labour was 35 times more powerful than a vote for smaller parties like Reform. The line that Labour have settled on to defend this unfairness is that wanting a fair voting system makes us sore losers. Quote, people complain about first past the post, but everybody knew the rules. Or hypocrites. Quote, strangely, I do not remember much debate in 2015 about whether Cameron had truly won the election. The truth, really, is that Starmer's Labour Party is simply not interested in fair elections. Their strategic wager is that if they can turn the next election into a starkly binary choice, we'll all come crawling back to them. A key cabinet member recently admitted as much. Quote, the real fight will be centre-left versus reform-right. And Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood recently reiterated this threat. Quote, if you don't like this, you won't like what follows me. Her pitch to voters is that the only way to avoid getting what they really don't want, reform, is to vote for something else that they also don't want. That is why Labour opposed proportional representation against the stated wishes of MPs, of the general public, and of Labour delegates. It is a protection racket and a really dangerous game for a party polling in 4th place to be playing. Now we'll look at the internal stitch-ups in the Labour Party that really set the groundwork for blocking Burnham. Andy Burnham beats out all other Labour figures on approval ratings. This is because he seems warm and relatable rather than managerial or rehearsed. His approval rating is 52% higher than Starmer's, and constituency polling shows that Labour win this seat with Burnham as their candidate, and they lose without him. The party is not ignorant to this. senior Labour figures have privately conceded that they expect to lose. Thus, blocking Burnham from standing signals a leadership prepared to risk defeat rather than tolerate victory by someone from outside of their own faction. Mark it on the calendar. Sunday, the 25th of January, 2026, the day that the Labour Party gave up and called it a day. For Starmer's clique, victory is secondary to retaining control of the party. They've rewritten Labour's rulebook to stymie Burnham and people like him. Changes include a new clause nicknamed the Burnham Clause. Quote, directly elected mayors must seek express permission from the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party before seeking nomination as a Labour candidate for Westminster Parliament. You must be an MP in order to run for the leadership of the Labour Party, so the NEC used this rule to deny Burnham's run for leadership before it began. Other avenues of skullduggery floated by Starmer's allies include declaring an all-BAME, that is black and minority ethnic, or all-female shortlist of candidates. This way they could block Burnham without being seen to single him out explicitly. The plan was to take a tool that's meant to fix structural inequality and cynically repurpose it as a factional tool. Starmer's faction have been doing this kind of thing for years. For example, in the Corbyn years, Starmerite staffers misused the party's disciplinary systems. Tasked with rooting out bigotry, they instead used their position to systematically hunt and expel people that they described as trots. Trot is short for Trotskyite, a derogatory term they used to refer to left-wingers. Starmerites are systematically dismantling Labour Party democracy. They promised to, quote, link up our mass membership, unite our party, and promote pluralism. However, they've now stopped members from debating certain issues. They've made it harder for members to nominate future leaders or to deselect MPs. They even went so far as to clarify, and this seems ridiculously villainous when you read it out loud, quote, the principle of natural justice shall not apply to the termination of party membership. Keir Starmer claims he puts the country first, but he seems like a local control freak. His plan is to crash the plane. His bet is that when the wreckage stops, someone from his faction will still be in the pilot seat. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. This party does not respect your vote and will not listen to your concerns. Acknowledgements. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. This article paraphrases compelling metaphors and astute observations made by the users of Symbols and Flying Rodent on twitter.com. Possibility Space is a listener-supported publication. You can subscribe wherever you're listening to this, or you can become a paid supporter on Substack. Thanks a lot for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.